Hey mamas, and welcome to the Entering Motherhood podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Marie Bilger, a wife, mom of two, VBAC mama, and doula. Here we integrate holistic mindfulness and evidence-based practices to support you on your unique motherhood journey. Whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant, newly postpartum, or supporting mamas in this stage of life, you'll feel empowered and informed as you embrace what lies ahead. Join us every episode to learn from professionals, special guests, and moms just like you, ensuring that you know what you need to know and discover things that you didn't know before. I believe in you. Let's doula this and let's navigate the transition of entering motherhood together. Hey mamas, this is another Doula Talk episode. I'm super excited to bring this to you. In this Doula Talk, we were discussing birth support options and just, what to look for, where to find them, what kinds of support there is, and all that. And I also just want to let you know that our Own Your Birth childbirth education course is now officially available and open for you to register and join us. So if you have been looking for a childbirth education course, please go check that out and look into it because there is just so much information there. It's a fully comprehensive childbirth education course. So there is everything from pregnancy, birth, and even into postpartum, and everything that you would just need to know in order to have a birth that you truly feel like you're in control and that you are owning it. And we are just so excited to share that and really get into that. But let's get this doula talk started. And thank you so much for being here and listening to this and joining us. Hi. I am waiting for Katelyn to come join us again today for another doula talk. It has been a couple of weeks since we did this because I am located in South Carolina and Katelyn is in North Carolina. So there has been a lot going on, to say the least. Katelyn's a little bit more affected by things that have been going on than I have been, but we have had our technical difficulties with internet and power and everything like that, but we are ready to jump back in and chat with y'all and talk about different options for birth support.
Yes. Apologize if it's a little noisy and you hear random sounds and kids and stuff. We're at a children's museum because that's where we can get internet. So I'm actually going to move away from the ball yard.
We have to get a little creative in times like this.
Yes, that's an understatement. We really do. But yeah, so birth options and like setting up a good team. I think that's one thing that people you don't think about, you don't understand the importance of until you're in the middle of it, And I'm trying to think of the words to say, but
yeah, I think it's really important. Usually it's kind of that you need a provider or you decide, you're going with different options and free birthing or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, either way, you are deciding what that team looks like. And so if you're finding an OB or a midwife, I think it's really important to, interview them or shop around or ask people, different opinions. Sometimes you can find statistics on their practice and things like that, cesarean rates and things like that.
Yeah.
And then also, in finding your doula, I love when, potential clients have, interviews with me and really get a feel for who I am and what I do. And they're also looking at other options and other doulas and things like that and seeing, what each of us have to offer and making sure that you connect with those people because they're going to be the ones there during that very intimate moment. And so finding people that you connect with and you want to share those moments with is really important.
Yes, for sure. And I think that's one thing that it doesn't get talked about enough. You need to have providers that are there and not just providers, but your support people, your who you're comfortable with, and you need to be comfortable with the people that you choose. Because ultimately, if you're not comfortable with them, that's going to just increase that fear, pain, all that response.
Right. Yeah.
So having that really supportive, encouraging group. And like, I even told my family, like, I knew my mom would want to be in there and stuff, but I told her, I was like, I just want it to be me and my husband and our doula, which is you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that can be
So,
really tough too, like if you have
yeah.
family close by, if you have siblings that are expecting to be a part of the birthing experience or anything like that. I mean, obviously, if you want them there too, then that's fine. But like starting to think about like how that conversation looks or what that's going to look like if you don't want them there, and really kind of like finding that support team that maybe can help you through those moments. Like that's something if I have a client and I'm like, hey, who do you want in that birthing space? Like I can be that buffer. I can be that person to kind of be like, oh,
Yes.
sorry, like you can't be in the room at this moment or like whatever. Like I can be the mean person if like they don't want to necessarily have it. But I also like strongly encourage them to be having these conversations and to get that, situated beforehand, because it's just going to bleed into your postpartum period too, and you're going to want to be able to have those hard conversations and be able to confidently say like, hey, this is what I want my motherhood experience to look like. This is how we're raising our child. And so like starting off with the birth and like really getting that strong foundation of solidifying a strong support system, I think can go a long way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like, I think it's one of those things, like the support system definitely doesn't have to just be somebody like you're comfortable with. Okay, let me rephrase that. It needs to be somebody you're comfortable with, but it doesn't stop there either. Like it needs to be somebody who is going to support you and somebody who is knowledgeable about what you want. Like say, I'm just going to use this as an example, but like my son was breech and I ended up in a C-section because he was breech and because my providers did not feel comfortable delivering vaginal breech babies. At that time, I didn't know what I didn't know. And so, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to opt for a C-section because they're not comfortable with it. So clearly, it's not safe. I have since learned differently. And so now when I'm looking for a provider, I'm like, okay, this is something that I want to at least like have my options open with, and like, I'm not saying everybody has to do that or say that or feel that way, but you need to have those, like, you need to consider those things and that those what ifs when looking for providers.
Yeah. 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 And I think it's like, obviously some areas I feel like are super dense with a lot of different birth options, like photographers and doulas and midwives and things like that. And some areas are a lot more scarce as far as, birth support go or things like that. But there's a lot of virtual support as well. Or, my client that I just had, she actually is from Kenya, like was living in Colombia to go specifically for the midwives. And so that was a good, decent travel. I mean, you traveled all the way from Hendersonville all the way to the midwives. So it's like maybe you have to drive a little bit further to get somebody that's going to be a lot more supportive of the situation that you're in. But really like weighing out like what does that look like and how would that pan out as far as okay, like maybe it's a half an hour longer in the car or an hour longer in the car, then like you could get to like your closest hospital or closest birth center or something like that. But maybe it's worth it to go somewhere else, or you consider home birth and look into different options for there, because you might be surprised that a midwife will actually be willing to travel farther to come to you if they're not necessarily like immediately in that location. So it's a matter of like asking and seeing like, hey, like I really like you, I really vibe with you, like can you travel this distance, or like do I want to travel this distance to find a more supportive team?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like, you never know what people are willing to do. So like I tell people, oh, I serve Western North Carolina as my like doula support. But if there's somebody that I really just feel connected with, I'll go a couple hours to be there with them, and that's something. It's like, okay, there's a chance that I might miss the birth or something, but as long as there's strong communication, likely most people are in labor for more than 2 hours, and then I know one thing when I was pregnant with my daughter is I was like, I'd love to have an out of hospital birth, but for some reason I didn't feel super comfortable with it at the time. But I think part of that was I didn't know the resources that were available for it, because in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm a VBAC mama. Like, I can't have an out of hospital birth in North Carolina. And so I just left it at that. But again, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And since being in the birth world more, I'm like, man, there's so many options. Like, I could have definitely had an out of hospital birth.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine. I think things played out the way they did for a reason. And, I did. And I made those decisions for a reason, and that's fine. I don't regret them. But, it's just one of those things, like asking the question, nobody's going to fault you for that. And if they do, that's on them. So don't be afraid to ask those questions. Don't be afraid to just seek out, okay, well, what happens if this?
Yeah.
What happens if I choose this? And then also, based on how your provider or your doula or whoever reacts to those questions can also give you insight on them as well.
Yeah.
Because like if you ask your provider a question about like, what if I choose to not clamp the cord and just have, deliver the placenta with the cord still attached to the baby or whatever, just given that as an example, based on their response, like that could give you some insight onto how they're going to treat you if that's the decision you make.
Yeah.
And then that could give you some insight on, do I really want to keep this person or not? Are they truly going to support me or not?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like understanding that like you can switch providers at any moment, you can, switch who is on your team, who you want in your team. Like maybe at first you're like, yeah, I want everybody in there. I want my friends and my family, and, we're all going to do this together. And then you start to get closer and you're like, hey, no, like I just want like immediate family, or I don't want anybody but my partner. And like understand and know that like you're allowed to make different options and you're allowed to like make different choices, and that there's no kind of like turning point. Like I obviously love it when, clients join earlier and we have a lot of time to get to know each other and really build up that relationship. But I've also been backup for multiple people, and I've been able to serve them just as well. So I think it's just kind of like understanding that, you can switch, you can say like, I don't want this person, I want this person, or whatever it might be. For our VBAC, for my son, we switched, I think, at like 26 weeks or something. Like it was definitely past like the 20-week mark.
Yeah.
And so that might sound late to some people to consider switching providers. But if you know that there's another option that you feel more comfortable with, then I say go for it.
Yeah, 100%. Because ultimately, where you feel the most comfortable and who you feel the most comfortable around is where you're going to get the best results, I guess. Like that's where you're going to be more likely to get what you want, is around the people who truly support what you want.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else to add to this topic? Obviously, like we're going to continue to say, like, ask questions, leave them in the comments below, really kind of interact with us. We're going to be trying to do this as often weekly basis as possible.
Yeah.
But
yes, I don't think I have anything else to add on this topic other than just trust your gut. If your mama intuition is saying something, go with it. There's a reason. Even if you don't have like a solid, oh yeah, this is why XYZ, but if you're feeling a certain way, just listen.
Yeah.
I think that's my biggest piece of advice for all of this. But yes, and definitely trying to make this more of a routine. We had a little bit of a natural disaster that kind of wiped out half of our county and most of the county beside it. So, just a couple hurdles, but yeah, we'll try to be back here around 10 o'clock next week.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys obviously stay safe, and you're finding different alternatives to entertain the kids and
yeah.
but
Lots of outside time.
Yeah.
But
yeah, if you're not following Katelyn already, go over and check her out. See if, she needs anything during this time. And
we're doing fine. Blessed beyond measure for sure. But all right, Sarah. Well, we will talk to you later.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you, mamas, so much for listening. Remember, you are a rock star. I believe in you. Let's doula this. Let's crank it up a notch, and let's kick it into high gear together. Hit that subscribe button. Share this episode with a friend. Message me, email me, call me, beat me. You know how to reach me. We're doing this, mamas. I am so excited to catch you here next week. This is your one-stop go-to place for helping you find the resources you need to make the best choices for you and your family during pregnancy, birth, and most importantly, postpartum. See you later, mamas.